Have you ever wondered why some women seem to get pregnant easily, while others face loss after loss even when all tests look normal? And what if there is hidden answers that most doctors don't always check for? And how do you keep hope alive when the clock feels like it's ticking faster every day? Hi, I'm Mariana. You'll hear Ximena's honest story about her journey through miscarriage, searching for real answers, and finding the support that made all the difference. If you are trying to conceive and feel stuck or overwhelmed, this episode is for you. We'll explore what really takes to move from pain to hope, and how can you start finding answers for yourself.
Welcome to Fertility and Wholeness Podcast. Are you tired of seeing that test be negative month after month? Will you ever stop having to take test after test? Are you scared of all the medical terminology, office visits, and misinformation you see at every turn on your infertility journey? If you answer yes to any of those, you're not alone. You are at the right place. I'm so happy you're here with us. My name is Ariana. I'm a fertility care practitioner and a wholeness coach with over a decade of experience on the field. I created this podcast because I know what it is to feel alone and lost while navigating fertility problems. And after helping hundreds of women, teaching them how to not protract their cycles, boost their fertility, and navigate their monthly emotional roller coaster and get pregnant naturally, I am on a mission to empower women to take charge of their fertility journey. In this podcast, you will find heartfelt conversations, education, tips on how to take care of and understand your fertility, emotional support, simple lifestyle changes to boost your fertility, nutrition, self-care routines, tips for handling stress and anxiety with ease. We have amazing, exciting expert interviews and guests, inspirational stories, and practical advice on preparing for pregnancy and joyful delivery. Are you ready to reclaim your health, your life, and become pregnant naturally? If so, grab your green juice and prenatal vitamins. This episode is just what the doctor ordered. Ximena, to today's episode. Today we are highlighting testimonials or women that have gone through the journey and have lived through it, and they're here to share a little bit about what helped them, what was it like, and what did they wish they knew back. Today we have Ximena. So Ximena, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you in the journey, and anything that you want to share for women on the other side?
Hi, Ariana. Thank you for having me. So right now, I've been married for almost 8 years now. I have 2 kids, 1 and 5-year-old. My journey with fertility started, I would say, 7 years ago when my husband and I wanted to start a family, and we got pregnant pretty fast. But then we had a miscarriage, and then we tried again a second time, and it happened again. There was a second miscarriage, and that's when we started looking for answers. Like after the first miscarriage, we tried to adjust a little bit with our diet, and we did some chelations and added different vitamins. But it was after the second miscarriage that we started to look answers in a more aggressive way and blood work, and we realized that there were a lot of issues with my cycle that needed to be addressed in order for me to have a successful pregnancy.
How long did it take you to begin looking or begin really thinking? I know you said you had 2 miscarriages first.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say that probably your issue was not getting pregnant. It was a lot more of the difficulties that came once you got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Is that what it triggered you to start looking for answers?
Yeah. And because I was the first doctor that I had, he just told me, you just need to take folic acid and that's it. That's you are, this is very common. Miscarriages always happen. But in my heart, I knew there was something wrong. For me, it was it doesn't make sense. And then it was I feel it was once I started to open up to friends, saying hey, I had a miscarriage. Many friends started to tell me I had one too, or I had 2, and then it made me realize that it was common, but it wasn't like, but there were solutions. Like I saw them with kids, so I was like, if they were able to get pregnant, what's the reason? And I was working with a nutritionist. She talked to me. She was like, hey, like the way your miscarriages have been happening, they're similar to what I experienced. Why don't you ask your doctor to do some blood work to see if you have MTHFR or factor V? And my husband was very encouraging, and he went with me to the doctor, and he asked the doctor, like, we want this blood work to be done. And even though the doctor was a little bit hesitant, because he was telling us it's like the problem, it's more, this was a second doctor, like he was telling me like, oh, maybe you just need chelation, like you need to like take all the bad metals out of your body, and that's going to help you. But my husband and I were like, no, we need to the blood work. We need to see if there's something else. And sure enough, like I have MTHFR and I have factor V. And the thing with factor V is that my body creates blood clot, that if I'm not in an anticoagulant while I'm pregnant, then there's a higher risk of me to have a blood clot impact the baby, and then that's why the miscarriage happens. So once we had the blood work, we looked for you. I actually started working with you, and you recommended another doctor, where we started looking more intensely of my progesterone levels, and we realized that also my progesterone was like, my body wasn't producing enough progesterone after peak time in my cycle. So we needed to address that as well. So it was like a very aggressive, after we started looking for answers, it was like an aggressive, like in my way to approach pregnancy and how to achieve the pregnancy, because now I knew that I needed to find a doctor who knew about MTHFR, who knew about factor V, and was willing to help me and to give me like the anticoagulants while I was pregnant. And I also needed a doctor who was able to check progesterone levels and throughout the whole pregnancy.
Just talking about, you talk factor V, but for our listener, I know what it is, but for our listener, what is MTHFR? Like, how does that affect also pregnancy? Because you mentioned those are the two things that we're hitting at the beginning. And alongside with that, what led you to, obviously, the drive to get pregnant, but a lot of women stay with one doctor. And they're like, oh, I don't want to change doctors. I invested too much in this one. I'm not getting the results fast enough. But he's a good doctor. And I always tell women, especially in the fertility journey, that they don't be afraid to seek a second opinion. Second opinions will either give you the reassurance that you're on the right path, or will make you consider there might be things that you're missing. So two things, MTHFR, and what made you, how do you manage that? Like, I need to look for another doctor to obviously, because you've been through a couple by then.
Yeah. So MTHFR is when my body can't process the folic acid. So if I, like for example, the first doctor was telling me like, you only need to take folic acid, but my body can't process the synthetic form of folic acid. Like I need the pure form, the folate that you get from, is it metafolic? That's the name. So it's a metafolic acid. I need to take like the purest form of it, because my body is not able to break down the synthetic pill. So I need to get like more also from like spinach and like very rich, like basically eat the folate as it is, not as processed or the processed one, like it won't help you if you have MTA. And also what made me change doctors is like I didn't feel peace. Like I just felt like with the first miscarriage, the doctor approach was like, oh well, like you had one, in a few weeks you can try again. Like I didn't, like for me and my husband, like it was a very hard thing. It was a very hard loss, and we know the value of life. Like even though my baby was only 8 weeks, we knew that his life was valued, and the doctor just like discard, like the way he was talking about the pregnancy was just like, it was one more pregnancy he had to see in his practice. So the way that because I wanted to change is because he wasn't open to look if there was something else, like if there was a problem, and that he didn't give like value to the life of my baby, if that makes sense. So when we went to the second doctor, this other doctor was Catholic. He was a good doctor. He helped us, like he was giving us a lot of tips of how make our house like clean and like, stay away from plastic. So everything was that he was giving us was of value. But we thought he had like this view of, this is the only problem. Like your is the toxins in your but he wasn't, if he was a good doctor, he was caring. He was, with the second miscarriage that we went with him, he helped us. He gave us rosary prayers to like mourn and everything. So we knew he was a good person, and he knew that the value of the life of our second baby. But we felt that we needed someone that was able to go beyond of what he thought. Like he was open, like the doctor was open to us doing some research and us giving some feedback of saying like, hey, this doesn't feel wrong. What do you think? Like my husband is like, he's very good into research. So when when we went to the doctor and he like, hey, I found this. What do you think about this? Do you think this could be one of the problems? The doctor kind of like closed up and he said, no, the problem is toxins. So we decided to branch out, and providentially a coworker of mine recommended me another doctor. And that's when I went to the third doctor, and she recommended me to start tracking my cycle in a more like specific way with Creighton method. Because ever since I had my first period, like I always track my cycle with an app or with a calendar. But it was the first time that I actually went in and checked the cycle with your guidance, and I was able to see different things that I was missing before. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with the doctor, because that helps our listener to not feel like, because they're not getting somewhere, that's the end of it. And a lot of us, because we're so drained and we're so emotional drained too, we feel like, this is it. Like I have no more options. So thank you for sharing that. And you did describe that you started learning to chart your cycle and understand your body. How is it that charting your cycle helped you with your doctor? Because you said the doctor sent you to me. So I want you to describe what is it that this chart does that is different from an app.
Well, first of all, like the app, so the way that the charting work with me and the doctor is that with an app, you don't really see, the way that the app was working is like, it will give me like a estimate of when my ovulation would happen, and I would assume that was my ovulation. But now once I have my chart, I'm able to see exactly the day that the peak date is. And we also realized that I was able to track how many days are after my peak. And that's where I noticed that the real peak was showing that I didn't have enough days, the exact amount of days that it's better for the implantation to happen.
And what was it then the doctor was doing with you? I know you're working with the third doctor and you're working with me. How was that team effort? How did you feel like it wasn't just you and the doctor? Now there was more people into the team besides you, the doctor, and your husband. And I know your husband, like you say, was the researchers. So how did you both felt about this approach?
I'll start again. Sorry. So the way that we started working together, Dr. You and me, is that it helped me look at, like, it wasn't only the period, it wasn't only my cycle. It had everything to do with my whole person. Like I started to realize that the months that I was too stressed, my cycle was going to change. And now it makes sense. Like why is it changing? Because I'm adding this extra stress, for example. So things are going to change around. So you helped me understand how exercise, how eating better, how managing stress, sleeping well, all of it everything has an impact in my cycle. And with what the doctor was showing me is I remember just going so many times to get my blood drawn to see exactly the progesterone, how it's working. And seeing the flow of how the progesterone was going up, and then going down in my next cycle, and everything kind of makes sense in my mind. Everything got connected. And I like having the team of you and the doctor, because sometimes it's easier to just talk to you and have a conversation of how the chart is going. And I know, and then you can tell me, give me your feedback, or be like, hey, you can make these tweaks or just add these vitamins, instead of me freaking out and going to the doctor and assuming something was wrong with my cycle. But it's just a little tweak. So it didn't it gave me a lot of comfort. And it gave me hope to say that I can make my cycle better with vitamins, with progesterone, with changing my lifestyle, and having the opportunity to get pregnant in a and I have a successful pregnancy.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What were your diagnoses besides Factor V and the MTHFR? Was there any other diagnosis with the third doctor that he uncovered, or was it?
No, just the progesterone, like the progesterone. Yeah. So we started, first of all, we fixed my cycle, like so I was able to track it and make sure that I knew exactly when all the parts of the cycles were happening. And then when I started to try to achieve pregnancy, I was immediately put on progesterone. And I remember that I had to go, first of all, when I told her, like, I want to start getting pregnant, then I went before ovulation to her office. She did an ultrasound and she was like, okay, everything looks good. You don't have any polyps. So she checked that. Even though like she already saw my chart, she wanted to go in and like check like with ultrasound if there was anything else, if it was endometriosis, if it was like a polyp or something. And she saw that everything was clear. So I went before ovulation, during ovulation, and after ovulation to get an ultrasound. And she said like everything looks fine, and now we're just gonna have to wait to see if you were able to get pregnant. And immediately she put me on progesterone, and I had to go every 3 days to get my progesterone checked. So I would see like the progesterone was slowly growing, like getting like the values were going up. And then she did a pregnancy test like from like with the blood, and it was positive. So she was like, okay, continue with progesterone. And one thing that I really appreciate from the third doctors is that she didn't, I know some doctors say like after 12 weeks you don't need progesterone, but she wanted to make sure that my progesterone was still like the curve was still going up. And we did progesterone checkup every week for the first trimester. Then the second trimester and the third trimester, it was every 3 weeks. And then we slowly like decreased the amount of time that I went to get my blood drawn. But with that, we were able to check that I needed like not only like 200 milligrams, I needed like 400. That was like my base start, like 400. It was like larger than what usually other people get. And by her monitoring so like closely, I feel that I was able to get a healthy pregnancy with my son. And then after my son was born and he was very healthy, he was around like 2 years old when we started to try again, we had a third miscarriage. So that was for us was like, it was a little bit of like a surprise and a curveball that we were not expecting, because we were like, wait, we were already doing all of this. Why is it not working again? Like, was it something that we did something wrong, or this was just like luck? But then we start again. Again, we knew that there were some inconsistencies. Like for example, I didn't start progesterone before, like as early. I didn't prepare my body for the pregnancy. So after the third miscarriage, we tried again and doing exactly the same with the thing we did with my first son. And thankfully, like that was also a successful pregnancy.
What was it like to get restarted? Because I know a lot of women that we go through the fertility journey for the first baby. Mm-hmm. We kind of like hesitant to do it all over again. Mm-hmm. Because we know what that means, the challenge that comes with it. Mm-hmm. What was it like for you to kind of like in a way go back and have to in a way get restarted? And what was it like?
Oh, it was really hard. I feel that during that time I feel like the first one was really hard. Like it was just like crushing, like losing my first baby. The second one, like it was very sad. But the third one hit me really hard because I was like, I already have one. Like, why am I going back? And it was a lot of, for me, it was spiritually, like I was really wrestling like in my prayers and asking God, like, why? Like, I understand like why it's happening. And then I remember when my husband and I started like talking, maybe like we want to try again. It was very scary. I remember just being like super, super scary. I met a fourth doctor this time, and she had another approach. Like I wasn't able to contact the third doctor that I work with my third pregnancy. So I reached out to this other doctor, and she was very gentle with me with the process. And I was just telling her like, I'm just scared. I just need reassurance that this is going to happen. And she was just telling me like, like we can do everything in our power. Like you're going to work with Ariana doing the charts, where I'm going to help you with a very strict regimen of vitamins. Now after seeing her, I take like, I don't know, like, it's like 13 vitamins a day. And she was really explaining to me like, okay, like this is what we're going to do. And I remember I was just like feeling super stressed and very nervous. And aside of the whole regimen of vitamins, charting, exercise, she told me to do the surrender novena. And that for me was like, it opened my eyes of a type of medicine that they don't only care for you like with your body, but also like spiritually. So that she was like, just do this, just do the surrender novena. We'll see how it goes. And I remember just like praying with my husband. At first, it was really hard of just saying like, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything, because I'm I like plans. I like planning. I like controlling. And if something doesn't happen the way I plan it, it's very hard for me to adjust. So this one, I was just like, okay, like I surrender. Like there's nothing else aside from taking care of me and my vitamins and like and doing the progesterone. And then once I get a positive pregnancy test, I start with injections of anticoagulants because of the factor V. So I just said like, okay, I'm going to offer it everything else I'm going to offer it. I had a notebook of every time I had to go out to get a blood drawn, or I have to put the anticoagulant. It was for someone. So I gave meaning to like the waiting and the suffering and the uncertainty for someone else, and just I surrender it to God. And I remember I thought I was like past it, like the grieving part. And we saw with my husband a show, The Chosen, actually, where Jesus was talking to little James, and he was like, little James was telling him like, why don't you just make it better? If I'm praying, like if I'm following you and I'm making everything right, like why don't you just like make me better? And God says something like, imagine like I need you to trust in me and trust in God, and tell like people that you like, show people that you believe, even though there's a problem, like even though there's like an impediment or something. And he says like a verse that says, God gives, God take away, blessed be the name of the Lord. And for me, that was very hard, because it felt like if God was just saying to me, like, even though I don't like give you what you want, when you want me, I'm still here. And I remember just saying like that, like every time I had to go to the doctor or wait for results, it was just like, Jesus, I surrender myself to you, take care of everything. And God gives, God takes away, blessed be the name of the Lord. That was it. Like that was my anchor of having hope after the third miscarriage.
Well, thank you for sharing how you were able to cope with it. So what would you say were the biggest challenges? And what would you say to someone that is right in the middle of the challenge?
Mm-hmm. I feel like the challenging part is that with my daughter, the last pregnancy that I had, I remember of just being like, I knew what it felt like having a pregnancy and ended up with a baby in my arms. And I knew what it is to start a pregnancy and ended up with miscarriages. So when I got pregnant in 2023, I remember of just being like, okay, the challenge was like every time I needed to go to the doctor to get my blood drawn, I knew I had to wait. Like there was a part that I needed to wait to get the results. And then like 2 weeks later, I had to go again to see if my progesterone was rising, if the pregnancy was okay, or even going to the doctor to hear if there was a heartbeat. For me, it was very, very, I was very scared. Every time I had to go to, I was very scared. But even though I was very scared, I remember I was just like, I took to heart what the fourth doctor told me, like, just do the surrender novena. And my husband and I have we entrusted my first son to Saint Therese of Lisieux. So we were like, okay, Saint Therese, like, if this baby is a girl, she's gonna be named like Therese because of you. So you're in charge, like help us. You said you were gonna like be praying for us in heaven, showering us with roses. Like it's up to you. So I remember just like getting like a medal of Saint Therese, and every time that I had to go to get my blood drawn to the doctor, I would hold on to the medal and just like grab it and be like, okay, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. I surrender myself to you. And it was interesting because I was very nervous leading to like going to the doctor. But then once I was in the doctor, I felt like I felt peace because I I gave it to Jesus. I was like, okay, whatever happens, it's your will. And that was the only two things that I was constantly saying. Like, I surrender myself to you. God gives, God takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That was like my two main like prayers. And having my husband like going with me and to the doctor's appointment and everything, I knew for us it was an uncertainty. But talking to him about what I was feeling, talking to my parents of how I was feeling, helped me to not feeling by myself. So I think that something that I would say to someone who's going through this is like, have a group of people around you, that it could be your friends, your parents, your priest, especially your husband, because whenever you feel scared, like, you can ask them to pray for you. And I've seen, like, whenever I told my mom, like, one time I called my mom, was like, I'm just too nervous. I don't even want to go to the bathroom because I'm nervous I don't know what's going to happen. And she was like, okay, don't worry. I'm going to go to mass and I'm going to pray for you. And I'm going to I'm gonna send, like, ask the priest to offer the mass for you, and sure enough, like, slowly you feel like peace starts to go into your heart, and not getting everything that you're thinking or everything you're feeling. Like, if you're trying to bottle it up and just keep it to yourself, that's worse, because I feel that your imagination can start like playing tricks on you. So I would say, like, the first thing you have to do is like find a good group of friends that you can confide in every time you are nervous or like worried, that they can hear you out and pray for you. Another thing that I would say is like, try to keep your mind busy, and as soon as like a worrying thought or something that's like negative comes into your mind, try to go on a walk or do like exercise, go to the groceries, like, try to shift your mind, because if you're just staying there thinking over and over again about things that worries you, then that makes it worse, because then if you're trying to achieve a pregnancy, you add more stress, more worried, and that doesn't help with trying to stay calm. And if you're pregnant, that like being in a stressful state of mind, that also can like affect you and your pregnancy. So I would just say, like, the way you surround, and if you believe in God, like, just offer it off to God. That's the most important thing. Like, know that God doesn't send this to hurt us. Like, He wants to be with us in the midst of the pain, in the uncertainty. Like, He is there with us. And I feel that's one thing that we have to try to remember, even though it's hard.
What would you say is some of the misconceptions that people get about fertility challenges that you're like, oh, if I can just like look at people in the eye and say, look, it's not like this?
I think at the beginning, like way before, when I just got married, like, I thought that fertility was just something that it was like, I didn't have to think of it, and like, I was going to have a baby like without any problems. And I think that also, like, another misconception that I had is that all the women had the same cycles and we all were the same, and that one thing that works for my friend is going to work exactly the same to me. I think this is a very big misconception, because I remember at first, like, I would hear friends that say that, oh, I had a miscarriage, and I'll be like, what did you do? And then they would be like, I drank this, or I took this, and then I would try that, and it's like, it's not working for me. Like, why is it not working for me? So I think that knowing that your cycle, like each cycle, it's unique to the women. Like, you have to find someone that helps you see your cycle, so helps you see what's like your hormones and your history, and work with you based on that. Because what works for me, it might not work for my friend, but there might be things that work for both of us. But we have to be able to adjust within each person and also each season, because my cycles don't look right now exactly as they looked 2-3 years ago. Like, they have been changing. So I think just allow yourself to be open to change, like to adjust your mind of how you're supposed to achieve the pregnancy based on the vitamins and the progesterone, or things that you can make it work.
And I know you're still tracking your cycles.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the biggest benefit that you have seen beyond pregnancy, tracking your cycles?
I think for me specifically, it's been eye-opening to see how whenever I feel off, or whenever I'm in too much stress, like, I would feel like my cycle is off, like something's off. And then I'm like, wait, this month I haven't taken my vitamins, or I haven't put so much effort in exercise, or I've been go and not sleeping well. So that like seeing my cycles shift either on being like either too short or either too long, it reminds me of things that I have to do to take care of myself. And sometimes where I see that my cycle is not as it was or as good as it should be, it's like a little reminder to myself to be like, hey, I have to go to bed early. I have to take care of this. And when I start making these little changes of vitamins, sleeping well, exercise, I even see it in my mood, how my mood starts to improve, and I can be a better person to serve my family and my kids and my husband. So for me, like the thing that has been working the most is like it's a reminder of things that I have to shift here and there in order to make my cycle better, but also help me feel better mentally and physically.
Is there anything else that you like share? Any final thoughts with the audience?
I would say give charting a chance if you're not doing it. Like it's gonna open your eyes of how your body works, how everything's connected, even how your mood shifts from one part of the cycle to another. You're gonna be able to understand yourself a little bit more. And if you are able to work with someone who knows how to read the Creighton charting, they're gonna be able to help you and point you to the right directions, either to a doctor who can help you if you're not able to get pregnant or continue a pregnancy because you have a miscarriage before. It's going to be very helpful in your life. And also don't lose hope. Like I know sometimes when you are in the middle of miscarriage after miscarriage, it could be very sad and lonely, and might think that there's no hope, but there is. And I would say the same thing that my doctor told me. You can do all the work, like you can take all the vitamins, chart, and do progesterone, but you also have to, if you still feel that you're missing something else, try the surrender novena, because at the end of the day, nothing is going to happen that Jesus won't be there next to you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, and I hope inspires and gives hopes to others. We appreciate your time, the effort, your willingness to discuss these things, because I know a lot of us, when we are going through it can feel isolating. We can feel lonely. In your case, you had an amazing team on your side. And again, thank you for being here.
And thank you, Anna, for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, we got a special treat for you. Join our free Facebook group where you can connect with other amazing women and share your thoughts. Join us by clicking in the link in the show notes. We can't wait to welcome you into our supportive community. And don't forget to come back for our next episode, where we'll be sharing even more inspiring stories, encouraging tips, educational insights, and practical strategies. Oh, and before you go, we have a tiny favor to ask. If you found today's episode uplifting and helpful, please leave us a review. It's like giving us a virtual hug, and it helps other amazing women like you find our show. Plus, it makes us smile from ear to ear. And hey, why stop there? Share the love. Tell your Betsies, your mom, your sister, and even your favorite barista about our podcast. The more, the merrier.